Author preface, a note to Rick Harsh. I'm excited for the moment in which you, Jeff, and I sit in the same room for the first time, as we have never before met in person. And in that room, there will be The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas. And there will be America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. And those tomes will exist as small cosmological paper planets. And we will be their estranged sun gods. And for a brief moment, there will be an unexplained fleeting order in the universe based upon a rare manifestation of an eccentric composition of convergence, symmetry, chaos, creativity, ascension, expansion, transcendence, radical probability, mystical authenticity, potential, and truth that is rarely captured by terrestrially bound mortal men. But for that one moment, when we sit together in the center of our fictional world, as the symbols of ourselves are radically replaced by our actual selves, only then will there exist an honest order in the cosmos in which our literary doubles are replaced by our actual selves, and only then will the project, this grand literary experiment, finally be complete. Introduction. This is where the synopsis goes. This is where I will tell you that the first day I met author Rick Harsh was the day that the book began. This is where I tell you that this is a book about writing a book while waiting for a book to arrive. But as I wrote this book, I came upon a powerful feeling. America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic, will be unlike anything else. I'm philosophizing with you here on the rationalization of the creative impulse, but one may ask, why write a novel? My answer is simply because I'm carrying a novel in my head that has never before been written, and the primitive drive or need derives from one's instinct to manifest what they, themselves, have never before seen or experienced within the current world. Thus, one's authentic, creative, objective assertion constructed out there in the world holds its roots to expand the very creative abstraction of that very world itself. And in the artist's willingness to compose such a manifestation, he or she expands the boundaries and probabilistic potential of a deeper, new, as of yet to be inhabited possible world that preceded it prior to its birth. Thus, quantitatively, the scope and grandeur of our shared sociocultural artistic imagination also incrementally expands. That's why I'm writing America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots. Then there arrives that most peculiar sense of being momentarily perfectly seated within the center of a multifractal vibratory universe in which you are writing a novel, nearly 500 pages long already, nearing publication, involving a character named David Miller, the high priest of metaphysics and philosophy. Then the power of your in-process novel manifests a used copy of that character's book in the mail, signed by the author who wrote it, who was the professor of the author who wrote the book you then wrote a book about, waiting for his book to arrive in the mail. In the Miller book is from the university library where the author and the other taught and went to school with an inscription reading, "In the spirit of the purification process." Then you turn this book on its side, and your own name has mysteriously, at some point in this book's history, been written on the total collected pages of the book. Then you pause and feel that you are possibly creating something very special, that the total scope of energy is much bigger and grander than the self that has already been embedded within the creative fabric of the universe for thousands of years, but it is only now that you have begun to unravel it. Now, I simply say, hello, dear reader, will you kindly take time to have this dance with me? This book is contraband. These words are illegal. By possessing and reading this book, you could be sentenced to life in prison. The Total Information Control Initiative, Directive number 22301, 2021. Part 1, Waiting for the Book, Chapter 1. I had one day imagined I would write a novel, but time got away from me as it always does these days. But like everyone else in America, just a few moments before the end of the world, I instead brought my hands up to the side of my head, pulled my screen sink 6 down over my face, opened my eyes, dove deeply into the stream, and watched the world quickly drift away. Inhale, hold, exhale, welcome. This is a possible world. By reading this book, you shall enter the ethereal plane of the fourth dimension tesseract. Submit to the cult. Enter the realm known as Calcultalume. Fool the body to free the mind. Enter the unified field. This book begins on September 28th in a year unknown. This book is a kamikaze literary house of tricks. This book is an impossibly imagined indexical novel of ideas. Thus begins the open system. Thus begins the reading experience initiative of the cult of the cactus boots. We were assigned to this text by the authoritarian fiction location book placement administration on the second day the book began. Book 1, The Scriptures of the Cactus Boots. For 10 minutes and 10 seconds, we sat silently together, saying nothing to one another, the entire world. We sat together, peacefully frozen in time, with the world put away and out of our view as we, every mother, father, son, daughter, brother, sister, grandfather, and grandmother, collectively, quietly listened to Avo Pat, Spiegel in Spiegel, Mirror in the Mirror, in an F major diatonic scale, played in 6/4, and when it stopped, and the world fell quiet again, and the entire population of the Earth's people floated off of the surface of the Earth, and the readers of the book floated away into the clouds above. As the world was washed away once and for all, the book began. This is the slow evaporation of consciousness. Static interruption. The Hive Mind Gazette, September 28. In another stunning iconoclastic blow to human liberty, American President Rolfe has suspended both the First and Second Amendments to the United States Constitution. Additionally, American President Rolfe has signed executive neuroform legislation launching a nationwide thought frequency surveillance pilot program, which will impact the freedom of thought of all Americans. Initial reports indicate that neuroform, in a yet-to-be-identified program under its Consciousness Replacement Initiative, will begin conducting thought frequency surveillance later this week on randomly selected sample populations of the American public in Nevada, California, New Jersey, Illinois, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Florida, Montana, New York, Wisconsin, and Oregon. Civil war now wages into its 122nd consecutive day of bloody conflict in the streets. Neuroform national screen addiction rates now surpass 80% of the total population. Today, the Total Information Control Initiative, in tandem with Neuroform, has launched a new directive, Directive number 2021-907746, mandating that all Americans in a new biohacking human augmentation program are to be microchipped with a new national RFID implant card identifying integrated circuit devices by the end of the year. American President Rolfe has announced that the Helicon chip will be administered door to door based on U.S. Census data by American mind control antenna agents beginning January 1st. The underground labyrinths are word tunnels that contain all the collected narrative threads of human history. It's a labyrinth below the surface of the earth, consisting of an infinite maze of network tunnels bound together like millions of neurons. These tunnels are not normal tunnels. They are tunnels made of language, tunnels built by the cylindrical architecture of words. Under the surface of America rest the intertwining sentences of every story ever written. The paths that we have to walk to find our way to Rick Harsh are the sentences of the manifold destiny of Eddie Vegas. We very painfully ripped our minds out of our bodies and looked down at the remains, stunned to see the shattered debris of the entire universe strewn out on the ground below us. In many regards, it was our fragile inability to escape entropy that made us all stronger, as we each walked in our own way toward the misplaced kaleidoscopic kinship function of the book. But we all felt a little better knowing that somewhere we were all just on the other side of the same pages, looking down at the words, or in other words, each other, trying to equally identify, hopefully for the same reasons, what exactly it was that we were all trying to achieve in such a distant and fundamentally unknowable world. We all find our way to particular books, sometimes for certain reasons, and other times for reasons uncertain to us. But when we are found alive inside of the right ones, only then do we oftentimes feel in that perfect moment that we have once and for all become ourselves. And for those extended, often infinite moments spent inside of that book, we can say that we have then and only then finally returned home. This is a book about writing a book while waiting for a book to arrive in the mail. For immediate total information control initiative thought frequency surveillance assignment, case agent to be assigned, TICI antenna agent 4104, objective, immediately begin direct thought frequency surveillance of the highly subversive Friedenberg-Walton-Harsch word terrorist network. Primary directive, antenna agent 4104 will be responsible for the immediate identification of the Friedenberg-Walton-Harsch active neural substrate correlates for the initial high-frequency tuning of the thought frequency detection and interception frequencies, working in cooperation with the appropriately appointed Project Cloud House agents who will scan, tune, and locate the active creative thinking neural groupings specific to the surveillance and suppression substrate correlates. Avoid, neutralize, or eliminate any interfering static interruption while conducting all surveillance. Create routine surveillance reports, as well as identify an inventory of high-risk, high-threat thought words for further thought surveillance targeting parameters. All assigned antenna agents are to immediately report to Operation Bovine Mind Dome in Wichita, Kansas, for entry into the Friedenberg-Walton-Harsch word terrorist literary text stream. All assigned antenna agents will use the gateway experience for long-term remote entry access into what has been described by the Total Information Control Initiative as the book. All agents will ascend through the 7-wave out-of-body process to enter the book, following the sequence. Wave 1, discovery. Wave 2, threshold. Wave 3, freedom. Wave 4, adventure. Wave 5, exploring focus 15. Wave 6, odyssey. Wave 7, voyager. Upon entry into the book, the assigned antenna agents are to report to Operation Bovine Mind Dome Operative 11 for literary text stream text analysis assignment location protocol. The reader, the novel's central protagonist, enters what is known as the book. Here, 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 here. Together, hand in hand, we enter the 4 worlds. The world of archetypes, the world of manifestation, world of formation and the world of creation. A few moments after the entire population of the Earth's people floated off the surface of the Earth, the world once again, as it was in the beginning, was empty and completely quiet, all but for the skies that were then suddenly flooded with 1,000 flocks of the melik, the alchemical birds of language, that soared together toward the ascended open heavens. It was then that they steered their brilliant migratory flight pattern downward toward one single animatronic peregrine falcon that was also charging in flight downward, chasing after an invisible prey before its own logarithmic flight pattern, which took its shape in a sublime Fibonacci spiral until it opened a portal in the center of the sky that it passed through, as all the Melik remaining in the world also passing through the portal as they too passed through, following the entire population of the world into the unified field. Once the people of Earth, the animatronic peregrine falcon, and the 1,000 flocks of Melik ascended, the portal closed, and then the world for the last time closed its eyes and went gently back to sleep. We are a symphony of 30 million different species, entropically colliding, furiously spinning at 1,000 miles per hour on a ball of solid rock, basalt and granite, on a precarious wobbling axis, prattling along, lost in space, hoping that someone would hear our voices or read our words and stop us, even if for just a moment, to reach out and say, "It's all going to be okay." We are temporarily separated from all that we are, living each day, desperately trying to find new pathways to claw our way back toward whatever it is that we actually are in the grand, unknown, impossible scheme of things. Soaring, bold, and alive, temporarily living in this infinite moment. Thus, we turn to take refuge in our books. We pause to seek to take refuge in the Word as we strive to understand how we not only learn how to navigate our way through the complexity of our lives, but we also use our books to learn more deeply how we navigate the seemingly unsurmountable vastness of our world as well as each other. The lonely, isolated reading orbits of a million burnt out planets seem to fall dark, but somehow this one still maintained its soft, glimmering, light blue, gentle appeal, calling out, screaming at the top of our dying, plague-ridden lungs, both left and right, into the universe, hoping that maybe someday something or someone would reach out with a call in response, eloquently providing some type of refrain, outlining the million little ways it would one day save us from ourselves. But as of today, that call has yet to arrive. So we just stop and sit back down and continue to write in these books authored for our future selves, hoping that in some way we see how they may change before these ruggedly carved paths in our history become forever unchangeable. Preceding the word, preceding the world, and preceding the words, we are all wavelengths. The manner in which we structurally code these wavelengths determines the perceptive nature of the worlds we build. This book, then, like our many inhabitable worlds, is just one singular variation of the unique coding of those same wavelengths, remodeled, restructured, and reconfigured as an artistic expression. Thus, this book is a possible world. Abandon the meanings of the words and strip them of their structures, and once again we return to experience the nature of the primordial wavelengths existing as the same unchanging energy it has always been and always will be, regardless of the temporarily beautiful formations we struggle to conform them within today. There was a cruelty in the way that the world had forever changed one day before our very eyes, now peering unrecognizably back at us, calling out to us by our names, the old names, the names we would now never remember because we had too many times throughout our troubled history renamed ourselves, but we could not bring ourselves to reply. as we no longer held the words we needed in our hands to describe to one another what we had now just become. We had turned our backs on one another. We had turned our backs on our humanity, and we boldly stepped across the precipice into the abyss. How dare we let ourselves forget? There is great danger. Enter the book of the timeless present moment. Decodified zone bioinformatics begin. And so it begins. We are now entering into the third repeated cycle of our universal conformal cyclic cosmology. We dance in the brilliance of such entropic magnitudes that we fool ourselves expressed in postmodern arabesques into the belief that maybe somehow someday this won't all come to a catastrophic end, collapsing in on itself 1,000 times over again until all that remains is the smoldering ash of our last hope. That maybe it would, in some way, someday start all over again. Conformal cyclic cosmology number 4 begin. Conformal cyclic cosmology number 5 begin. Conformal cyclic cosmology number 6 begin. Through the impossible cosmic microwave background radiation noise, we put our ears to the sky and we begin to listen. We're all thrown into it, one way or the other. We all try to steer it as straight as we can. Sometimes we collide with each other. Who is to blame and who's gonna fix the boat? Life, oh life, there's nothing to fear from your life. Let me know if I can be of any help. Life, you and I, let's try a fresh start today. What do you say? Let's close the door on the past. So we swim, and it is in so many ways just a little trick to keep our heads above water. But now I'm not afraid anymore.